What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and it is time for another Friday Night Live. Good evening, good evening. Happy Friday, September. I guess today is the 3rd. Tomorrow is opening day of dove season. I'm excited. My kids are even more excited. It's an annual thing for us. We go out and we shoot shotguns all day. It's a lot of fun. So I got John David, Jordan's going, Juliana's going, my brother-in-law and his son will be there. We're going to go about an hour south of here and shoot some birds. So I cannot wait. So welcome everybody. Welcome SS Outdoors. What's going on? What's going on? Outdoor Jack. Awesome, man. I saw your comment about your how you got your hat. Somebody gave me your address. It was either on Instagram or Facebook because you didn't have a Facebook account or something like that, and I gave it to Bass University. But anyway, speaking of Bass University, this Bass University TV. There's a link down in the description. Basically, it's it's a link that's got my name attached to it, so you know you're coming from me. But it's where you can go and sign up for a month subscription there. It's $15 a month. I don't know how many years I've been doing it. I remember like number 930 something, which they've got tens of thousands of members now. So yeah, it's I've been doing it a long time. I love them. They got a ton of videos by a ton of different pros that teach you a bunch of different stuff. Get down to the dirty, advanced details, and it's awesome. I still watch them weekly. Research on a lot of their videos. So, oh goodness, going on, Applin's Heart. Stephen Guthrie, what's up, man? What's up, Hollywood? Oh goodness, tell your son I said hi. Let's see, Ronald Singletary, how you doing, man? Prairie fishing for bass, man. That's a long name. It's almost a tongue twister for me tonight. Thank you. See, he says my camera quality is good. Yeah, this is the Sony ZV-1 is what I'm using. So it cost me about $1,000. I bought it a year ago. And I shoot my videos on it. I switched it over, it becomes a webcam. It's probably, in my opinion, the best vlogging camera that there is. What I love about it is, watch this. Actually, let me grab a bait and I'll show you. When I'm showing off baits, look how fast it focuses on baits. I mean, it's just crazy nuts, the focus on this thing. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Army Outdoors, thanks for the $20, man. So what's going on, brother? Just got off the lake and got 3 nice ones. That's awesome. November, welcome, brother. What is it? 88 Mike was like a truck driver. 88 November's got to be transportation. So Paul Terry, how you doing, man? The master of all things bass. I wish. Hey, I got a good one, guys. Next month, actually this month, later on this month, while I'm on the road, and day and a half, 2.5 days at Edwin Ever's house. Some collab videos and stuff like that. I can't wait. I can't wait. I was going to keep it a secret, man, but I'm pretty excited. I've been a fan of his for many, many years. Should be awesome. Johnny E, know you trimmed the beard, man. I did that like a month ago. Where you been? Too much. It was too much. I don't have time for that, so I cut it back down. Plus, nobody ever recognized me, which is a kind of a big thing when you're doing what I do. So, but yeah, it was pretty neat. I freaked my kids out when I cut it, but it was funny. So, oh. Tom Brown, help me catch a bass. Just kidding, not really. Rookie and learning. Love your videos. Thanks, man. Yeah, spend some time on those beginner videos that I did. There's a beginner's playlist if you haven't watched it yet. Glean some stuff off of that. You don't have to do everything I tell you to do, but definitely there's a lot of information on that playlist that'll help you out for sure. Transportation management coordinator. All right. That's what 88 November is. Okay. Gotcha. Man, isn't even the same one anymore. I was a 91 Papa, 91 Bravo. Yeah, I don't know what they call it now. A 91Q, or I don't know. It's changed. So I've ever fished Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I have not. Dated a girl from Cape Cod once, but that was it. Bill Ray, what's best for September? What's good to throw this time of year? I did a video I launched day before yesterday. Might have been yesterday I launched it about baits to throw in September, kind of the early fall transition. Top water baits, matter of fact, I haven't cleaned it yet. So top water baits, kind of like this one right here. This is a dual pitch from 13 Fishing. If you got a lot of grass and stuff, you know, a frog like a Spro bronze-eye frog. Oh, let's get it up there. You guys can see it. That's my favorite color. Don't tell anybody. Square bill crankbaits. So that's a fat popper from Spro. The Jabberjaw would be a good one. They're just, the bass are moving up shallow. They're getting up and getting onto hard cover like rock and wood as the grass starts to die off. They're getting into the live grass. If you've got any of that left, there was a tournament I fished back in '96, dragging a 1.5 ounce jig around, pulling up grass and looking to see what color it was. And that I marked those spots, came back in the tournament and won the tournament, dragging a worm through that grass. But there were only 3 spots that were maybe 20, 30 yards across, all 3 spots in back in this one big pocket. And I literally caught all my fish out of that grass. And all the rest of the grass out there around there was getting brown. Was still green, but was starting to get brown. And they were leaving. Stephen Auding, man, you guys ready to fish tomorrow? Man, I wish I was out there. I really do, but I'm going dove hunting. So you guys have fun. Somebody's going to catch a sack. I promise. I promise. Hodge family, thanks for the $20, man. I appreciate it. He says, I haven't seen you use the Tokyo rig lately. I've never used, thinking about throwing it this weekend in a grassy lake. What are your thoughts? Dude, I've been fishing grassy lakes. So I really haven't thrown it much, but dude, definitely, especially this time of the year. Where you're from, hit that submerged grass, look for the little holes and the little pockets in that submerged grass and flip in there. Green pumpkin creature bait, bring green and orange, something like that ought to work really good. So thanks for the $20, brother, and good luck tomorrow. Have fun. Addicted to bass. Gene, I'm dragging a worm tomorrow in this Arizona heat. What else can I throw to catch them? A jig in Arizona. Throw a brown jig or a green pumpkin jig, something like that, and drag it too. That's been kind of my 1-2 thing this year, mainly because I decided at the beginning of the year I hadn't been throwing a jig enough, and so I started. I basically made that decision. I said I'm just going to throw a jig a lot this year, and I've caught a lot of fish on it. But I did not have not caught anything over 9 pounds yet, and I caught a bunch over 9 last year. Doyle Mail, Ned Rig Recommendations, or Ned Rig Gear Recommendations. I'm guessing you're meaning rod and reel and stuff like that. A 2,000 or 3,000 size reel or a 200, 300 size reel. Some people put 3 zeros at the end. Some companies put 2 zeros at the end. I don't know why. But anyway, a spinning reel. You're going to have a medium spinning rod. I like mine about 6'9", 6'10", somewhere around between 6'8" and 7 feet is kind of where I like my spinning rods. 20-pound test braided main line. I use a Seagar Smackdown, and then a good 8-10 foot leader of fluorocarbon tied on with an FG knot is what I do. And I use the original Z-Man Ned Rig jig heads called the Finesse Shrooms, and I love using that TRD, that little Finesse TRD, and I'll also throw small soft plastics and that kind of stuff on there too. So JD Duncan, welcome, man. Sean Cummings, besides a PFD and a paddle, what's the most important piece of gear on a fishing kayak? An anchor. I like to drop that anchor and sit there and fish and fish and fish and not have to worry about the wind blowing me around. And that would be that's number 3 on my list. Of course, now I'm spoiled and I've got the the Motor Guide XI3 on the front, and that's my anchor. Hit a button and it keeps me there. But definitely an anchor. So, and then an anchor wizard with that anchor just to keep that line from getting all jacked up. So, but welcome everybody. Welcome everybody who's joining us. You guys make sure to hit the thumbs up or the like button on Facebook. Get YouTube to blast this sucker out. Let me see. Do pedal anglers compete equally with powered anglers in tournaments? Yes. I've done a lot of comparison. I've got a buddy who fishes out of a Hobie, and I told him, I said, look, dude, you and I fish about the same. We'd love to power fish. We love to make multiple casts on a day and stuff like that. I said, I want to know how many numbers of casts you make in an hour while you're fishing out of your Hobie. And I'm going to count how many casts I make in mine having a Motor Guide running. And it was pretty close to the same. I think we were like 8 to 15 casts off, something like that. And so there wasn't that much difference in the number of casts you make while you're fishing between a Hobie and between the XI3 Motor Guide. Now, the only difference is if you're making a long run, you're not kind of worn out at the end of that run if you have a motor. But yeah, pedal drives, man, it's they get you there. They definitely do. I cannot wait to try out the new Bonafide pedal drive. So, Elmo Johnson, man, thanks for the $10, brother. You're awesome. I appreciate it. I really do. So I'm not. Somebody's name is Clemson. I don't even know if I want to talk to you right now. I don't even want to answer your question. Clemson, really? George is playing Clemson tomorrow. Go Dogs. I'll answer his question. I'll put it up there. If you are on the water before sunup, how do you decide when to stop and not throw topwater and just go to whatever you think they will bite subsurface? Just if it's dead still on the surface. A couple of things. If there's no action on the surface, if I don't see any bait fish ticking or any sign that they're up shallow and feeding shallow, I'll tend to very quickly put whatever topwater I have, put it down and grab, something else that's a moving bait. Until I throw, 100 casts or so, and I lose confidence in that moving bait, then I'm gonna throw to something, start flipping something up against cover and stuff like that. But this time of the year, I always have it's hooked to that crankbait, a walking bait like this dual pitch, tied on, ready to launch, and I love the bone color, but tied on and just ready to launch at whatever bait whenever the fish come up schooling, because that's what they do this time of the year. They push those bait up to the surface, and the bait can't go any further than the surface of the water. So it's just like hitting a wall, and the bass come up there and they start feeding. So Johnny E. Gene loves Cincos. Don't tell anyone. Oh, I do fish them. I don't really love them, but I do fish them. So Rod Royal, the old Remington 1100 with modified choke, my favorite dove gun of all time. Light recoil, smooth swinging, because it's I love, man. I want to get a Remington 1100 for Jordan. Somebody try to call me. Who knows? But I want to get one that my sons can shoot. I have a Winchester Model 1300 that I bought when I was 17 years old, and it's a pump, and I shoot it just as fast as anybody with a semi-automatic. And shot triples with it. I've shot, and I just love that gun. And if I need to reach out and touch a bass, a dove, I'll put the full choke in there. But I can't wait. Tomorrow morning it's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys missed it, tomorrow morning is our dove opener. And so we're getting out of here at 4:30 in the morning and driving south to go shoot some dove. What adjustment would you make if you have a fish follow and roll on your crankbait? First thing I'm going to try is switch that to a natural colored crankbait. And when I say natural colored crankbait, say there, and do I have one with an orange belly? I don't think I do. Say I'm throwing this one, okay? And this is a Spro. I don't know, Spro. I can't read it. It's too small. But that's a Spro deep diving crankbait. Say I'm throwing this one, and I have a fish swing at it. one of the first things I'm going to do is I know I'm fishing the right depth, or especially if it's a square bill and I see them swinging at it. I know I'm fishing the right depth. I know I'm fishing almost the right speed. I'm going to change to one that has an orange belly. I don't know what it is. I learned that about, 15 years ago. And I'm going to throw that about 10, 15, 20 times in that same area and see if that's it. The change between, because this is what they see. They see this part of your crankbait as it's swimming away. Let me get it focused. They see that part of your crankbait as it's swimming away. So they see the flash of that orange that's on that belly. I'll throw that, and if they're still swinging at it, I'm going to switch to something that looks a lot more natural, like a paddle tail swim bait, or something that looks like a minnow, or a bait fish. So, Aiden Cameron, hey, what's up? It's my birthday this weekend. I'm going fishing. Any lures you recommend? Go Dogs. First of all, happy birthday, and go Dogs. Let's see. This weekend, I'm guessing you're somewhere here in the South. Honestly, I'm going to start off with a buzzbait. Really, I really am. I'm gonna be throwing a buzzbait until the sun hits the water, and then after that, if they're in a chasing mood, I'm going to switch to a crankbait or a spinnerbait. If they're not, I'm gonna start dragging a jig. So let's see. I'm sorry. These are cool comments. It's just I don't want to pop them up there. So is Hobie Bass Open Series the only non-powered tournament trail? Major one? Yes, it is. It's the only non-powered major tournament trail. So SS Outdoors, if you could kayak fish any lake in northern Georgia, where would you go? I'm trying to explore a little this weekend. This weekend, do not go to Rocky Mountain Public Fishing Area. That's my favorite lake in North Georgia, but it is going to be slammed. Real Crazy is having a tournament on there. The Trophy Lake's open. It's Labor Day weekend. Don't go there. Really, I think Carter's Lake is on fire right now. They got big spotted bass in there too. So Carter's Lake could be a good one. That's the only one that comes to mind, really. So let's see. Do you think Georgia will win tomorrow or will Clemson lose? Both. I think both. Have you ever fished the Satilla River in southeast Georgia? I've not. I've driven over it a couple times, but I have not fished it. John Rowland, I'm new to using a bait caster. I keep throwing it further left than I mean to. I do that a lot too. Am I releasing too early or too late? Thanks, Gene. If you're right-handed, you're releasing just a little too late. You could also be using a too light of a lure for the rod you're throwing. A lot of times that's a telltale sign that your rod's not loading up right. But you release it a little earlier, and I one of my very first how to cast a bait caster videos, I'll talk about this. You release it like you do a baseball, but a little earlier than you think you should, and it'll end up going straight. Throw sidearm. Throw a lot of sidearm. Don't do a lot of overhand until you really get the feel of the reel. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, definitely it could be that your lure's a little bit too light for the rod that you're throwing. Josh Little, man, a bunch of you guys who fish in the tournament tomorrow. I promised Damon Henderson I was not going to say a thing about what baits to throw on Rocky tomorrow. But you know me, I don't mind running my mouth. Oh goodness. Flipping Florida fishing. What's going on? Thanks for the 20 bucks. Appreciate it, man. Hey bud, looking good luck on your hunt tomorrow. I'm heading out as well to a WMA for Dove that is always good. I sent you a Facebook message about sharing a good redfish spot with you for a solid video. Hope to hear back from you. Collab, maybe. Definitely, dude. Definitely. When I get down there, I definitely will. It'll be a little while before I get to Florida. I'm literally about to be gone for a month and a half. And so when I leave for that long, I tend to stay home for a while after that. But I always get down to Florida December, January. sometimes in February. So Quincy, how you doing, man? Let's see. Outdoor Jack. I don't know who the dogs are, but go dogs. It's the University of Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs. I've been a fan since I was a kindergartner, since I went to my very first game in kindergarten. I've been a fan of the Georgia Bulldogs, so I don't know any better. Plus, I used to, when I was a 12 and 13, 14 years old, I milked cows about 8 miles south of the university. So I got to go to a lot of events during that period of time. So what's the best retrieve for a buzzbait early morning between 4 and 6 a.m.? Thank you. As slow as you can go and still break the surface is how slow I like to throw a buzzbait. I don't have to hear it. I want to hear the surface breaking, but I just want to make sure that I'm going just barely fast enough to get it above the surface. And I got a video I'm going to launch tomorrow, hopefully, if Jordan would load it on my YouTube channel, that talks about how I modify it to make it run that way. So, and then I'm working on another one that's about is all about buzzbait fishing. But I do have one that's a 2-part video from years and years ago. So Clemson said, grew up in Athens and worked in the summers at UGA. I don't don't throw me out. That's funny. If you know where Bishop is, that's where I used to milk cows. My brother-in-law's, I was slave labor down there for my brother-in-law's dairy farm. So Redfish Rambo. I caught a 5-pounder on a silver Zura puppy out of a tidal area that is notorious for hard to catch fish, where the biggest one caught in the last 10 years has been 6.5. Small topwater versus large topwater during fall transition. Small topwater is where I'm going to go through first. This is the small dual pitch, and the Super Spook Junior is the one I throw all the time. I'd rather throw a small one than a large one for a couple of reasons. One, I get bit more. 2, I don't get worn out. The big ones wear me out because I'm walking them like crazy. The biggest thing is speed. Play around with your cadence, pop, 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 pause, or whatever, or super fast is where I'm typically, how fast I'm typically working it. So, let's see. With that being said, I hate Clemson, so good luck to the dogs tomorrow. What water temp before you put up the top waters? Mid 50s. And when it gets down to the mid 50s, I typically will put them up. Just depends on the lake. There's a couple of lakes I know of in the country that they will school until they can't move, but that's rare. It's really rare. So, Fluke, me and my boy going kayaking tomorrow morning at Keg Creek. Besides a buzzbait, what else should I be throwing this time of year? Oh, I'm trying to think. Where are they going to be? See, I haven't fished Keg Creek since there's grass in there, and I hear there's no more grass. I'd be throwing a crankbait, really. A square bill, unless they're acting like they're deeper. But I mean, typically I'm throwing a buzzbait till my arm falls off. So, and that buzzbait looks just like this one. So that's that red Cavitron, but I don't care about the blade color. This can be silver or whatever. It's going to be that fat Albert grub on a white head is what I'm throwing. So, let's see. Gene, will you talk about what lake turnover is and how it affects fishing? Ooh. Hold on. Let me get this $5 dono real quick. Flipping Florida fishing. He says the spot is in southeast South Carolina, closer to Florida. If you go Florida, crush them bass and tarpon. Oh, okay. So it's over. Okay. I know where you're at then. Definitely. All right. Start. Lake turnover. So in the South, it usually happens in November. If you have a lake that has stratified or it has a thermocline where it's gotten so hot that it has a layer, anywhere from 8 to 25 feet deep, that's 72 degrees and got a lot of oxygen. And you can see that on your fish finder. If you got a lake that stratifies during the fall, of course, the upper water column is starting to cool down because you got cooler nights and cooler days. And as that water temperature up here gets colder than the water temperature down here that isn't changing much, what happens to heat? Heat rises, right? So this one's cooling off and this one's staying about the same, and this one gets colder than this one, and all of a sudden, bloop, it flips over and this one becomes the top, and it starts to stir things up. And you start to see these nasty brown bubbles on the water in the area. And it doesn't happen all over the lake all at the same time. And there's no rhyme or reason as to where it happens. But you start to see nasty bubbles on the water. And I think of it as just like a cold front moved through. It puts the bass in shock because that water that's below that thermocline is nasty. Low oxygen, just nasty, nasty water. And so it mixes with all the other stuff, with all the good water, and the bass just go into shock for a few days and stop biting. What I do is I'll go look for areas that don't have the bubbles and have a lot of bait fish, and I'll start heading back in the creeks and looking back there, and you'll find them, and that's where you'll find your fish. But you got to stay moving, or you're just gonna, you're better off just going home, really. So it's usually 2 or 3 days that happens. So I hope I answered your question. Would you ever collab with Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment? I've never met him. I like his videos, but I've never met him. So Damon says, what's up? What have I missed? Damon, I told everybody what you were fishing with and how to catch fish on Rocky Mountain. So all those guys that are fishing that tournament against you tomorrow, they all know. Yep, they know. I told them everything. Alabama rig and a shaky head. Come on, man. Byron Irwin, what's going on, man? How can I find out information on bass tournaments at Rocky Mountain? It's more clubs that do it. Rocky Mountain they don't like to have big tournaments there. It's usually just small clubs that do. I think they're limited to 30 people, and the trophy lake is closed to tournaments. So you're only limited to those 2 lakes. So it's not the greatest thing. You're on top of each other. But those people who know how to figure them out on those lakes are usually the ones that do pretty good. So SS Outdoors, I heard Mark Menendez likes a Z2 as a buzzbait trailer. Huh. Have you had any experience with a Cinco style bait on a buzzbait, or does it work? I don't typically like a Cinco style bait. I have 2 different styles of plastics. And somebody asked me this question on one of my videos the other day, is why do I take the skirts off my buzzbaits? I never fish a skirt anymore on my buzzbait. Come on, focus. There we go. Never do. I always put a trailer or some type of soft plastic trailer. I either fish a fat Albert grub, or I fish something that's got 2 kicking legs, like a horny toad or a Z hog or a rage bug or something. And I typically like something that's got a lot of flat to the bottom of it, so I can skip it under docks, and also it'll help rise that bait up and keep it shallower as it's running, and you can run it slower. And so definitely those are the ones I look for. And typically white, green pumpkin, and black are the 3 colors that I throw. What do you think is going to be the deal in the cross later this month? Green ones or brown ones? Whew, it's hard to say. If I was there, I'd be going for green ones because I suck at brown ones. He's talking about largemouth and smallmouth. I really do not. I'm not good with smallmouth. I am going to fish current breaks and stuff like that, so I'm liable to catch some smallmouth. Or if I go up there, I'm not going to fish that tournament. I was going to, but changed my mind. But Drew, thanks for the $5 though. The frogs, always frogs. You're going to lose a lot of them to pike, so make sure you have plenty of frogs, or have a really light wire leader to save them. What else? Flipping, punching, throwing things in the current seams. Square bill crankbaits definitely would be great. So I was going to fish that tournament, but I could not find a place to stay. I couldn't find any campgrounds. They were all full. And so I decided I was going to go down to Louisiana instead and pre-fish, do a little pre-fishing for the national championship, and then also swing by Edwin Evers' house on the way down, do a little fishing. Drew, thanks for the $5, by the way. Thank you. What What size buzzbait for fall transition, Carbotron, Hammerhead? I use either or. The biggest thing is the size blade. I use the ones that have the biggest blade possible. So like this is a Strike King. Never use this one. This has got a little swinging head by Strike King. I don't even know what it's called. But I like the ones that have just the really, really big blades. Whether they hit something or not on the rotation, I want squeal is what I want. And so that's what that video is I'm about to launch, is how to make your buzzbait squeal. But I just has to have a big blade, and I'm not really worried about what kind or what anything else. Weight size, 3/8 ounces, almost all I throw. So Dean just ordered his P127. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Let's see. Also, buddy, can we be looking for anything with you in tactical? I talked to them at ICAST. They're interested. We probably won't get together until the winter, though. So, and they're not in town. They're traveling right now. I don't know why they're traveling. They got Chickamauga right there in their backyard. Gene, sometimes I think Southern fishing advice doesn't fully pertain to us in the North. Thoughts? Almost. What you need to do is especially with my like dated videos, is go back about a month to 3 weeks to a month backwards is where you guys are, and your seasons swing a lot faster. And so like right now, you guys really should be into that early fall transition. Smallmouth should be moving up shallow. Grass should be dying off, that kind of stuff. But I'm really trying to keep it in mind, especially during these transition periods, what you guys are going through, and trying to include those in my videos, like I did with the September baits videos, is trying to include you guys and what you ought to be looking for. So another thing is you guys have a lot of natural lakes, and like I'll talk about shad moving into the backs of the creeks and stuff like that down here in these man-made lakes. Forget I said shad. Just think I said bait fish like alewives and the other types of minnows and bait fish you have. They just move shallow into pockets or shallow up on islands and large long points. And so they do the same thing. They just don't move back into creeks. They just move up shallow. So think of it that way. And you guys you don't see any hot water temperatures like we do either. But same sort of deal though. And the bass move shallow. They go really super shallow this time of the year for you guys. ATL Clutch, thanks for the $5. He says, fished West Point last week. Saw fish that individually school and couldn't catch them. That's typical. How would you approach that scenario? Also, go dogs. That's typical. Solos this time of the year. Here in the South, the water's still really hot. They're just chasing those bait fish that are 4 and 5 feet deep up to the surface to try to hit them, and they're coming back down. They're not really doing much. So I'm not throwing topwater at them. I'm throwing subsurface stuff. If it's right after they school, I'm throwing something like a spy bait that's got, props on both sides. If you guys can see that, let me get it closer so it'll focus. So it's got props on both sides. This sinks about 3/4 of a foot a second. And so I count it down and I start reeling it. Spinner baits, square bills will work too. And then after, 20 to 30 seconds, I'll start dragging something around on the bottom because they're down there and pushing bait up to the surface. So what would you throw in a shallow farm pond about 8 feet? A Ned Rig. I'd throw a Ned Rig out, let it sink to the bottom, and then I'd slowly reel it back in while I'm slightly shaking my rod tip, keeping it just barely off the bottom and just shaking it. And then when I hit something, I'll pop it over top of it and I keep on shaking it. I'm telling you, man, there's nothing better for little small farm ponds with muddy bottoms than a dang swimming a Ned Rig. Yeah, ask Noah Pescatelli that. I kicked his tail a couple years ago in a little competition we had. I grabbed a bag of TRDs, put them in my pocket, 3 Ned Rigs, put them in my pocket, and grabbed my fishing rod and went and wore them out. So, ooh, this one I don't know. Rogelio Martinez says, tips on fishing up north. I live in Washington State. I don't know a whole lot about fishing up there. I know you got a lot of good smallmouth water. I know a little bit about the dunes, or I think that's what it's called. But they're about the same. They've moved up shallow. A lot of good frog fishing in a couple of your lakes. But my knowledge about Washington lakes are very, very, very limited and old. So a lot of it I've forgotten. So this is a good one. What causes a buzzbait to roll over on its side? Let me find that Cavatron, and I will show you. All right, so get this to focus. All right, you see that buzzbait. You see how, and I can't see it, but you see how everything, let me get this right. Let me move my computer, stuff like that. All right, so I want the arm that goes around and I'm doing everything backwards, so it's going to be tough. The arm that goes through the blade, I want it to be in line with this arm right here and aligned with the hook. And if it is cocked to the side like this, let me hold it like that. It shows this better. If it's cocked to the side like that, I want to bend it over and straighten it up. So I'm going to straighten it up for you, show what it looks like. And I typically will look at it like this. Okay. And I'll look at it and I'll say, okay, is this arm lined up with the hook? Is it perfectly straight all the way down? Stuff like that. When it gets cocked to the side, especially after you catch a few fish or one fish, just straighten it up. Look at it. Straighten it up. Sometimes you got to twist it this way. Grab hold of this and twist it. Sometimes you got to bend it this way, but you just want to get it perfectly straight with everything. And I look straight down it just like that. And that's how you get it to run straight. It is going to, a lot of them, especially the single blades, they'll go left, but you want them to stay straight up. You don't want them to roll over on their side. And that's how you keep that from happening. So I'm glad I had left all my crap here. I meant to take it in the barn today. But we were straightening up the barn and organizing tackle this morning. So good question, though. What about farm ponds full of weeds? A split shot rig. So basically what a split shot rig is, get you a small offset worm hook. The little bass fishing worm hooks. Put it on a spinning rod. Put a trick worm on there. Some type of, usually green pumpkin. If you got grass, it's probably clear water. So like a green pumpkin trick worm, 7-inch straight tail worm, and then get you a kind of a medium-sized split shot. I can't remember the size, but a medium-sized split shot, and pinch it on your line about 6 to 7 inches above your hook. Throw it out, and you're dragging it across the top of that grass. Is what you're doing. You don't want your bait to fall into the grass. You want to drag it on. And if you feel your bait getting hung in the grass, or you feel like you've got some grass hung on your bait as you're dragging it, just pop it a couple of times. It'll come right out. So flipping Florida Bass. Thanks for the $5, man. He says, what bait to catch food if lost in the wilderness? What's your go-to? With no doubt, along with what type of line. So when I was a scoutmaster and I would teach wilderness survival, I taught something pretty simple. Small hooks, small baits catch any fish. It'll catch a big fish. It'll catch a little fish. So if I've got to survive, I'm throwing a small bait. Ned Rig is perfect for this. It comes with the weight and everything else. And it'll catch bluegill. It'll catch all kinds of stuff. A lot of times, like in my survival kit, I just have a hook and I go find some worms or bugs or something like that. A little tiny hook, literally a number 12, I think is what I have. And I'll catch a bunch of little bitty bluegill and eat those if I got to survive. But bait wise, it'd be a Ned Rig if I've got to go out and catch something. Used to be a shaky head till Ned Rig came along. Shirt of the Month Club, not yet. I've still got to find somebody I trust. So I've been burned way too many times in the last 10 years. So I'm kind of got to find a company that I trust and somebody that'll do it with me that's not going to screw me. So yeah, the guy that screwed me with the Fishing Shirt of the Month Club is now the Guggen squad manager, by the way. Let's see. Par for the course. What do you throw a spinner bait with a clacker blade that Ike calls shock collars? I don't like clackers. The only thing I really throw is I like the ones with the head that hit the head, and I don't have a hammerhead right here. I don't think. No, but yeah, I do. So this is basically a hammerhead where the blade, you can see how all the paint's missing off of this head. The blade, when it's going through the water, hits that head, and that's what I use instead of a clacker. I just have never had luck throwing one with a clacker. I haven't. I would rather throw one that didn't hit at all until I think that I need to have something louder, and then be able to bend that one down to hit the head of the blade, or the head with the blade. So, Rod Craw, do I practice fly fishing? I grew up fly fishing. I don't do it anymore. It got way, way, way too expensive. The prices of fly rods and reels and line and just got way out of hand. And I put it up many, many years ago. I used to guide on the #1 bluegill lake in the world, and we had fly gear, and I loved teaching people how to cast. And I don't have a standard cast because I grew up fishing in creeks and rivers in North Georgia that have a lot of overhangs, and so my cast is really, really compact and quick and fast, and comes by your ear, and I just loved teaching that technique, and it would drive a purist crazy, but that's how I learned to fish when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. So let's see. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Thanks for the $100, by the way, Drew. Holy crap, man! I didn't notice that was 100. I thought it was $9.99. Oh, wow, dude. Appreciate it. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I'm consistently finishing top 5 in tournaments, and I got back into fishing last year after getting out of the military. Thank you for your guidance, and I will see you and hopefully shake your hand at the KBFNC. Yes, sir. Make sure you find me, bro. Seriously, I'm never too busy to say hi to somebody. So awesome. Thanks for the $100, Drew. I appreciate you, brother. I really do. So just word of warning, if it's in the middle of the tournament, I'm probably not going to be very social. So hit me up before or after the tournament if you want to stop and talk. I kind of get into this little zone, and I'm not very nice. I don't get belligerent, but I'm just like, I kind of am really short and get in and get out kind of stuff. So anyway, just a fair warning. I want to be kind of serious during that tournament. Thanks for the $100, brother, by the way. Let's see. What's your favorite baits to throw during this time of the year? I did a video yesterday, or launched one yesterday, about that. I'm getting into a lot more moving baits. I'm getting away from the big worms and the jigs and everything else I've been throwing all summer, and I'm gonna start throwing moving baits, and covering a lot of water. The bait fish are getting a little bit more. They're getting eaten a lot more. The bass are moving up. You'll notice that if you catch a really big bass this time of the year, they're real skinny because they've been hanging out deep all summer and feeding as they can, but not really moving much because it's so stinking hot. They move back, and they'll move up shallow and start feeding again. So that I caught a 9.98 in 96. That one that was my PB for 9 years. But as a 9.98, I caught it out of the grass in less than 6 feet of water, and it was super skinny. If it had been a full-size fish, it would have been 12, 13, maybe 14 pounds. But it was super skinny 9-pounder, but still won the tournament. So what's your favorite style? What's your fishing style preference, shallow or offshore? I'm an offshore guy. I can fish shallow. I know enough about it. I did it for many, many years, but over the last 10 to 12 years, I've become more comfortable being way off the bank, fishing offshore structure and cover. And if anybody is ever interested in learning offshore stuff, and I try to teach it as much as I can, but get study the works of a guy, an old guy that's long time ago passed away, but Buck Perry is the father of offshore structure fishing, and start studying his works. They're old. A lot of it is outdated, but when he talks about how bass relate to structure and stuff like that, he is 100% right. And he's taught a lot of pros how to fish offshore. So, flipping for the fishing, man. You keep donating $5. Appreciate it, man. It says, what do you do to hype yourself up for a tournament other than planning? Music or what? I'm music. I have a playlist of 90s metal and shoot, what else does it have on there? A bunch of different stuff that I'll play on the way to the lake. But then once I get to the lake, I flip on jazz and I listen to jazz while I'm heading to my spot. So that's typically what I do. So thanks for the $5. Joshua Hernandez, another $5 dono. Appreciate it, man. He said, I can't catch anything on a fake bait, no matter how hard I try. Do you have any advice? Yes. Seriously, and I'm not touting my videos at all. I just know that these things, that my playlist for beginners has helped so many people in your situation get to that point where they've caught their first fish on a fake bait, on a worm. Go watch my For Beginners playlist and pick a few things out of that to try and stuff like that. But definitely, dude, that's going to really help you out. I put it together on purpose for that reason, just because there's a lot of guys out there that are just like you. And I understand. Definitely. S&S Outdoors, do swim jigs still work in the fall transition? Yes. I haven't seen many people recommend them in their fall transition videos. Yes, and yes. That's actually will probably be on my October one. I'm going to be throwing it a lot this fall. And it is. It's an all-time one of those that work whenever you've got cover. You know, whenever they're in cover, it's going to work. So I definitely am going to use it as a search bait in Louisiana for the KBF National Championship. That is a definite. So, bassing with Eddie, dirty shallow pond. One day you can catch a couple fish. The next day, same conditions. Sometimes get skunked. Do you know why? All right, so here's my secret to ponds, and I used to do this. There was a wildlife management area right down the road from where I grew up, and it had 22 ponds on it. And I would walk around these ponds, and I kept a notebook. This was before GPS or anything else on a fish finder. I'd kept a notebook, and I drew a map of the lake, just an outline, and I marked everywhere I caught a fish. And I did this for a year. And at the end of the year, I looked at it and I've got these X's all in one place, all in certain places. And those were the key spots and I kept dates and things like that, just good records. And I was able to always go back and catch fish on those ponds just by fishing those spots. And a lot of found out later as I got a boat that a lot of those spots were just dead spots. The spots in between, they were just dead. They never had fish, whether I was in a boat or fishing the bank. But that's what I do is I keep track of where I'm catching them. And then a lot of times the bass, because the hardest thing to do is find the fish. It really is. Once you find the fish, you can catch them. But I also kept a note of, as I'm walking along the bank, where the life is. If I'm looking and I see a bunch of minnows and then I'm walking along a little further and I don't see very many minnows or any other life that's on the bank, and walking all the way around, I turn around, I come back, and bing, there they are sitting right there. And the bass are going to be wherever the food is. Definitely. I hope that answered your question. I kind of went around my elbow to get to my butt, but Joe Nee, how you doing, man? He said, what's up, Gene? Had an absolute giant straighten out my hook on the grass this week. What setup do you use when throwing a crankbait in grass to get those fish away from the cover? I typically, and I'm guessing you probably were throwing a square bill. I'll throw it on 15 to 17 pound test fluorocarbon and a medium heavy moderate rod. But the biggest thing is my reel. I'll go up to a 7:3-to-1 gear ratio reel just so I can manhandle the fish. The crankbait is typically a 2.5 and not a 1.5. So your bigger crankbaits that have bigger hooks. But that's not so much important. The biggest thing is just having that rod that can handle them, and then upsize your hook. Like a KVD 1.5 comes with a size 6. I'll go up to a 4. And just because it's got beefier hooks. So that stinks, man. You're fishing the land of the giants, though. That's for sure. How do you feel about the 13 Rely Black? Just picked mine up from Carl's 7'1" medium. They're good for their price. They really are. Matter of fact, one of my swim bait rods is a Rely, and I picked up a couple of them at iCast to put reels on. And I haven't tried them out yet. So just give me a little while on those. But the swim bait rod I've been using for over a year, and I really like it. They're just really good for the price. What I was impressed with is the new combos that 13's come out with are really good. I'm not sure. They're probably going to be in like Academy and Dick's and that kind of place is where they'll probably end up. And I don't shop there anyway. S&S Outdoors, are you talking about Charlie Elliott? Yes. Yep. That's where I grew up fishing. So Patrick Devereaux, thanks for the $5, brother. I really appreciate it. Jennifer Ellis, how are you? She goes, hey, Fluke, thank you for all you do. I finally got the skunk off the boat. I caught my first pond fish this year after remembering something you have said. Thank you, sir. Awesome. Congratulations. That is so cool. This is a great question. Patrick Devereaux says, how do you know where the creek channels are within a lake? By studying the topo map. The creek channel bends and creek channels and river. You literally look on the bank, and the bank, wherever the bank is the steepest, and you have a turn in the bank, the creek's going to be following that same contour. It's going to be out in the water, of course. So I'm always looking to see where the creek is going to get closest to the bank. I'm looking for that steeper bank, and that's usually where I'm going to start. And I also know that because that's a swing in the creek channel, that across our point, so across the creek channel, so I can either fish the outside bed in the creek channel or the inside bed where it's flat, nice flat surface. And those are both really good places to find fish. So Pond Life with that Mosier boy. I like that name. He says, if I roll up on a school of fish on a Sunday morning and I fish around that school, can I consider that as going to Sunday school? No. Sunday, I have a rule. My own personal rule is if I can help it, I do not church. I spend time with my family. So if it was me, I'd say no. But to each their own. I'm not going to be judging you, though. Oh, that's funny. I like that one. My wife wouldn't like it, though. On lakes without grass this time of year. Shallow flats is typically where I'm looking. Okay. Ditches and the mouths of tributaries, mouth of creeks, mouths of wherever water's coming into the lake is where I'm going to be focusing. Definitely. Guys, don't forget this is sponsored by Bass University TV. There's a link down in the description where you guys can go check them out. $15 a month, and you get to watch videos and read stuff by some of the top pros in the industry that know a whole lot more about fishing than I do. One of them, I get the fine opportunity in about 2 weeks to go fish with him, Mr. Edwin Evers. So guys, look forward to a video sometime in October where him and I are fishing together. He'll probably have his out long before me, though. So how do you get refocused when you get distracted? I stop, I put my rod down, and I do what I call a reset. I used to call it eat a sandwich. I literally would sit down and grab whatever I had to eat, and I'd sit there and eat it, and I'd go, okay, let's start over. Let's refocus. What's the watercolor? Weather conditions, and I just go through that progression all over again, just like I'd never fished that lake before. So oh, Kevin Gray, would you ever come to California to fish? I might. It's just a long ways to go and a whole lot of money to get there, but I'd love to go fish with Greg Blanchard. He is hanging out with him earlier this year in Texas. So Army Outdoors, what does he say? 2022, you can only fish lakes or ponds. Take your pick. Lakes, more options. More options. I don't mind fishing ponds. Well, here in Georgia, I get ragged a lot because I don't bank fish a lot. Here in Georgia, there's not unless you're fishing private lakes, and it's hard to get permission to fish private lakes no matter who you are. And so that's the difficult thing, and it sucks. Better states out there for bank fishing, like Florida, New Jersey. I mean, there's tons of states out there that have a lot more opportunities to bank fish than Georgia does. It's just everything is private. It really stinks. So another $5 from Flipping Florida. It says, who's one person you would go back in time to fish with? My dad. Many of you guys know. Let me see if I can get to that picture. That picture right there. This one. That's a picture of my dad with his knees in the water trout fishing in North Georgia. That is the last day I ever fished with my father. So I stopped, and I'm going to tell you straight up. I think the Lord told me, he said, turn around and take pictures of your daddy. And I grabbed my camera, put my rod down. I sat there on the bank, and I started snapping shots. And this was like 5 years before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. But something, Lord told me, he says, this is the last day you're going to fish with him. So I got those really cool pictures of him. And it's awesome. I mean, if I could, let me get it off the wall. I'm going to show it to you. It's not it's a backlit picture. It's real dark, but let's see if I can do it without too much of a glare. Let me pop this light off. All right. So you don't see it, but behind him is a bridge. And this is our favorite area to fish right here. There's a campground right over here. And he is in a hole that I've caught many, many, many trout out of. But you got early morning fog and the sun shining through the trees. And that was his happy place. Pair of hip waders on, just hanging out. And he loved to trout fish. That man has never been in a boat with me because he could not stand bass fishing. What are you fishing with these broom handles for? And so he hated my bass rods. And so we always trout fish together. So, but he passed away years ago of Parkinson's disease, which is a horrible way to go. But I'm okay with it. We had good conversations, and we had a lot of fun together. So that's my hero. All right, we got time for one more question. Fishing a heavily pressured lake that apparently has big fish, but myself, everyone I see and talk to are catching ouncers. Is it a lie there is big fish, or is there a secret to getting past the babies? Whoo! Man, that's a hard one to answer. The biggest thing I always tell people is you got to fish where the little ones aren't. Those little ones are food to big fish, and they're going to avoid the big fish. And I typically, I guess, once I started fishing offshore, I realized that I'm getting out, fishing drops, fishing. And it took a long time for me to get out there. But it really is something that you ought to try and ought to really study. I spent like 4 years studying offshore angling and fishing. It's called structure fishing is what it's called. And getting out there and learning how to read a map and learning what you're seeing on the fish finder. It takes a lot of time on the water. There's a lot of things to it. I wish I was confident enough to be able to teach it, or I felt like I had enough expertise in electronics and in technology itself just to teach it. So, but anyway, that's definitely what it is. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. I got to go get packed and get everything put together for our dove hunt tomorrow. Like I said, I'm taking my kids dove hunting. So watch my Instagram. I'll throw up some pictures on there. We should have some type of a you guys, but it's always a blast. Out, I set up a tarp and she hangs out underneath there in the shade and stuff like that. But be sure to check out our sponsors, Bass University TV. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out in the water. Go out and catch some fish and have a great day. We'll see you.